Welcome, Solar here. I hope you guys are doing well today. I've been having a few technical issues, and I wonder how much of it has to do with these solar flares picking up. What a time to be alive, right? So I hope you guys are doing well, because I know that this increase in Schumann and solar flare activity, it can wear us out, but it can also leave a lot of us feeling very anxious, because what is happening is, as the sun pelts the earth, we literally are those densities that have kept us living unconsciously crumble, and we get exposed to truths that we need to be exposed to, but can sometimes be a little bit overwhelming in our energy field. So I hope whatever you need to do to feel stable and secure in your own energy right now, that you are taking every precaution to do that. Okay, so I want to take a moment to welcome all of you. Thank you for being here tonight. Welcome if you are visiting for the first time. Welcome if you are returning, whether you're pretty new in these parts, or you've been here from, the jump, or even you've been here from the time I had another channel a few years ago. Thank you for being here. Thank you for your love, and thank you for your support. Word to the wise, I am not for everyone. I am definitely not here for everyone. I am here for a very specific type and caliber of soul. Okay, so if you are not vibing with my frequency, even if you kind of are down with what it is I have to say, it could very well be that I'm not here for you, or I'm not here for you just yet. So, you can keep it moving. No, I take no offense to not being in alignment with beings. In fact, I prefer that if you don't like me, you find who you do like, and who helps you to rise into your joy, so that you can show up on the earth planes and be who you came here to be, unashamedly and unabashedly. Okay, so please, it's really important right now that we all learn how to get in where we fit in, because if we don't, we're opening the door to suffering, and we're doing it ourselves, and we're opening the doors to karmic timelines. So if you don't like a person, get out of their energy. If you feel uncomfortable, unless it's a stretching, because this is something that your soul needs, even though there's resistance that happens to us too. Our conscious mind and programming will resist a message or resist a being, but our soul will know that they're right for us, and so we sit and we allow that work in our soul to be properly wrought until our hearts are properly open to receive. That's a little bit different, okay? But at the end of the day, the most important thing on this journey in general is that we know ourselves. So I have so many things I want to share tonight, and I don't know if I'll get it all in one video, because I've been kind of procrastinating coming on here today, not purposely, but I've just also been very tired, and I took the day to myself because I've just been back to back to back working, and I've been taking some notes. And so this video is going to really center around karmic family dynamics, and the reason for that is because whenever we enter into Cancer or Leo season, these things, these karmic family energies, timelines, effects begin to amplify, and they amplify in order that we can get free. Okay, so I want to talk about some of the things that I've been noticing more this year. If you want more information about things I've shared about in past years, please do check out my playlist from last year this time, especially in August. I dove into a lot of the karmic family structures, and if you've been following me on this channel for a minute, you know that this is my area of passion and expertise, is really understanding and overstanding these karmic family systems and structures, and how they were designed to keep us stuck. Really is what it was. So this is what we're dealing with now, and the main download I had is that the karmic family is a pimping system. that kept the false matrix running, a pimping system, and we're going to get into that. Before I do, I want to put a quick reminder out there. I am recording this message on Tuesday, July the 30th. On Wednesday, July the 31st, I do have my midweek group check-in session where you can show up, and if you have a question and you'd like me to pull a card for you and you'd like some personal guidance, you can do that within a group setting. I open these groups up very specifically because it is time for us to lose the fear of coming together, but it's also a way for those of you who are not able to do a one-to-one with me to still get your answers, your questions answered, and to also be in a supportive environment. Okay, so if you're interested in that, it's the last one for this month of July. I will put the information for how to book your seat for that. It is happening on Wednesday, July the 31st at 1 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, 6 p.m. UK time, and it comes with a live card pull, personal guidance and assistance for wherever you are, whatever you're going through right now on your ascension path. Likewise, on Thursday, August the 1st, I do have my small group Tarotstrology session called The Sun, the Story of Your Sun and Moon, Woundings, Contracts, and Resurrection. So we will dive into your sun and moon placement in your birth chart, the stories and the contracts that brought you into the false matrix, and how you rise out of that wounding and out of those cycles. Your sun and your moon show the energies that you came through, which would be your father and your mother, the contracts that brought you here through them, how you have been bound time and time again in this false matrix system, especially by way of your moon sign, and how you rise through the sun into North Node living. So these are very pertinent themes and stories that we're dealing with right now, always in Cancer and Leo season. So I will be hosting that on Thursday, August the 1st at 12 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, 5 p.m. UK time. There are 7 seats for that available in total. Okay, so it's a very small and intimate group. Okay, so now let's get into what it is the downloads I've been receiving and the observations I've been making about what's happening right now. So first and foremost, I want to reiterate something that I wrote about yesterday in my Substack, and that message, if you're interested, it's on my other channel, Daily Alchemy with Solar, that message audibly that I wrote yesterday for my Substack, community. It's up on that YouTube channel if you want to give it a listen, okay? Or you can access it on Substack too. But in that message yesterday, I was breaking down somewhat how every year when the sun moves into Leo, we enter into our solar return as a collective, okay, on the earth planes. When the sun returns to her domicile, we enter into a new solar year, okay? And on the calendar, a lot of the time you'll hear it's the new galactic year, and it's always in alignment with when the sun enters into Leo astrologically, not astronomically, but astrologically speaking. And so this is our solar return, which is why the light codes that come through Leo season are so potent, because they're here to replenish and recalibrate your solar energy. When we are working in divine alignment in accordance with how this planet was originally structured, before it became an energy harvesting parasitic complex designed to imprison and trap souls to harvest them. Before that happened, every single year when the sun returned to Leo, we would get replenished. We would get our solar codes for every single year we're on the planet. Very similarly, every year when you go through your solar return, when you return back to where the sun was at your time of birth, you also get your own personal solar codes for the year. Now, when the sun returns into Leo, we get our personal solar codes. We get personal solar codes, yes, but we also get the collective vision, the solar codes we need to collectively share in the vision that is supposed to bring harmony onto the earth planes. This is ultimately what the 8-8 portal is also about. It is why they shifted it around in the false matrix, in false light spirituality, and made it this gateway of huge manifestation. Yes, it can be used for that, but it's been sorely abused and misused for the selfish ambitions of these beings who wanted to keep the truth of what this is obscured. The 8-8 portal, Leo season, is where collectively we begin to harmonize with the solar codes we have for our personal and collective endeavors to live peacefully, peaceably, and prosperously in harmony together on this earth plane. Okay? So, on the other hand, these are very, very potent codes that come in to replenish our solar plexus. Same thing around your birthday. So I've said it before, I'm going to say it again. The false matrix likes to fuck with these time periods so that they can be used for energy harvesting. So we were taught on our birthdays to be around people who really don't care about who we are as souls. We are to be in their energy, so we are out of alignment with what it is our souls are actually needing to properly soak in the fullness of the codes we need to recalibrate ourselves for the year ahead. Now, this is really important also because understand and overstand that the false matrix not only was constantly energy harvesting you, through its many, different rituals, etc. But every time it energy harvested you, it did so by bringing about soul murder, soul death. It didn't just take from you energy, it took your solar energy, it took your solar codes, it broke you. It broke your soul in order to get you into a lower frequency, perpetually cycling through fear, guilt, and shame cycles. So the false matrix, we call it trauma, in our vernacular, but really what it is it's persistent, consistent episodes of soul murder. And the soul murder would snatch away pieces of your soul. And those soul murder rituals begin in your family of origin. And I did a whole reading, I think I did a few readings last Leo season where I spoke about how your family of origin are the ones who seize control over your solar plexus from the time you're a child. And that ceasing of control and programming you mentally and emotionally into the traditions that uphold the energy harvesting cycles and systems of the false matrix is what opens you up from the beginning to be harvested by the false matrix and keeps you open for life, because what you learn in your formative years, how you are mentally and emotionally programmed, most beings just continue that. It is only through recent generations where more and more beings are rising up and saying, wait a minute, this ain't right. And they're persisting, because there have been many who have come before and have stood up against these generational curses and ways of doing things that were all designed to keep us stuck in family structures where we would be energy harvested, and that so that we could be energy harvested in the grander picture of the false matrix's schemes for life, right? So there were beings who would, but they would get silenced, some of them would get killed, and put in mental institutions, all manner of things. And it's only recently, in the past couple of decades, that more of us are rising up and we're speaking. And we're refusing to be silenced anymore. And in doing so, we're shifting these fake traditions that were designed to consistently open us up to to soul murder as if it's like the most normal thing. Now, I want to give you an example of soul murder, okay? A very small example of something that occurs again and again in childhood that we overlook. It could be a parent, it could be a teacher, it could be an older relative. Understand and overstand that soul murder is most effective for you as a child when it comes from an authority figure, because that authority figure is taking authority over you and therefore tuning you out from having any personal authority over self. Your solar plexus is the seat of where you are able to actualize your personal authority over self. And even as children, that should remain in place. Parents are not here to overtake children's authority and autonomy over self. Parents are here to guide them deeper into that intrinsic divine wisdom and to even learn a thing or two from those children also, because the truth of the matter is many of these kids that we're popping out are more ancient than we are. They are wiser than we are. They are our teachers. They are the medicine we need to rise. And then our egoic, arrogant, false matrix programmed natures want to come and try to tell them that we know something and to break them out of their divinity, which is against universal law. There is a high karmic price for parents to pay who take their children off of their divine path and especially when consciously then it's brought to their attention that's what they're doing, and they have no remorse, which is a lot of them right now. There's a lot in more conventional circles. There's a lot of conversation right now about older children leaving behind their parents, and these older parents like, why are my children leaving? I never did anything. I was the model parent. And it's just like, I call bullshit, because if you were the model parent, this wouldn't happen. They're calling it the silent epidemic, and if they were all model parents, this wouldn't be an issue. So beings who refuse to look at the way that they have contributed to the trauma within their own offspring and want to pretend like it's their children's problem and they have nothing to do with it at all, they are going to be under more severe judgment, because it's being shown to them, it's being brought to them consciously, and they're still pushing away at it because they don't want to take any kind of responsibility. So this is what we're entering into now also. So your solar plexus is it's under the authority of your parents when you're born, in the sense that they are supposed to help you. Excuse me, that's my dehumidifier. They are supposed to help you tune into your ability to be sovereign. But instead, they break you through various acts of soul murder to become pliable to these systems in the false matrix that are there to harvest your solar codes constantly and consistently. Okay, so a small example of this, because let's not go to extremes, because there are extreme versions of this, and the more extreme versions tend to be parents of children who have a lot of solar codes and they're lacking. But let's just give us a small example of this. A child expresses something that they're observing. You know how children don't have a filter. Children are not limited by these crazy egoic standards that have been placed upon us generationally. When they see something, they call it for what it is. So if they think something, they're going to say it. They don't mean to insult. That's not their desire. Their desire is just to be real and to be authentic and to be true. But in unhinged adults, imbalanced, egoic-led, wounded adults who don't understand that about children because they've silenced their own wounded inner child is what it comes down to. Those beings take offense to children who act like that. And a lot of the time, they will call them disrespectful, all manner of things, right? Because they can't They can't listen to a child without a child assert themselves in any form of wisdom without taking it as a personal assault. You see this a lot in the schooling system with kids who refuse to be programmed and who will speak up in the class, and then a grown-ass teacher whose ego has been, really their inner child, their ego has been affronted, you know. They will, instead of seeking to comprehend what that child is saying and why that child is going there or where that child is coming from, they will dress that child down, they will shame that child, they will make sure that child looks ridiculous before them, in front of their peers also, so that that child does not make the mistake of being truthful again. Okay, that's a shaming ritual. It's very, very common in the false matrix. Shaming rituals produce soul murder. Shaming rituals cause beings to be ashamed of themselves. Shame is the lowest frequency on the vibrational scale. It is the emotion that they will use time and time again to lock us away from ourselves. Because when you are ashamed of yourself, you are in full self-rejection and therefore self-betrayal. And when you live in self-rejection and self-betrayal, you have moved away from your source truth. You have moved off of your divine path. You have moved away from your direct connection to the cosmos. You are walking out of divine alignment, and you are no longer walking in purpose, and therefore you are courting karmic timelines and lessons. And everything in the false matrix was designed to keep us stuck in karmic timelines and karmic lessons, so that we would constantly, perpetually be suffering and feeding their false grids our lower emotions born of trauma and soul murder, soul splitting, that were things like fear, guilt, shame, apathy, anger that we couldn't express, pride, you know, all of those things where we haven't been able to properly utilize the power of our emotions and our reactions to abuse, to soul murder, okay? Because then they put in a way and a tradition of doing things where those who were abused, children especially, but any beings who have been marginalized specifically in the false matrix because they were high quality energy supply for their grids. So that will often be children and those who are high frequency beings, or those with purer heart frequencies. They will always seek to abuse in order to feed their grids, right? So these are the beings that they will often target and they will abuse, and then they will silence you in your shame. So victimize you and then victim shame you should you dare to speak out in the truth. How many of you know this from your family structure? I know that for me that was the case. I am a classic scapegoat story in my family of origin structure, where time and time again I was bullied, not only in my family, I was bullied within my family by my mother, who then my sisters followed her, because that's what happens. Children see the authority figure doing something and just follow suit. My father my parents were together, still together, but was largely absent. And he would come back in the family structure and fall right underneath her energy signature for the family system. So he was just passive in the midst of allowing all of this stuff to happen, right? And then in the schooling system, I had the same thing. As the only black kid, I've talked about this before, as the only black kid in an all-white school in 1980s suburbs of London, I was picked on by teachers, and I mean bullied, and constantly put through these shaming rituals in front of my peers. And of course, children will emulate, especially at a younger age, will emulate what they see those authority figures doing. So the shaming and the bullying goes on outside of the classroom, in the playground too. So from every angle of my life as a child, I had no escape from that bullying, from those constant shaming rituals. And they will target the children who are the truth tellers, who are the keepers of truth frequencies, because they don't want to, they've been programmed by the false matrix to reject truth, for one thing, and they also don't want to see their own woundedness. They don't want to do the work of healing. And children like me, children like I'm sure many of you can relate to, you know, a lot of the circumstances I'm speaking of as a scapegoat, they don't want to deal with their own shame. And so instead of processing it, they use you energetically as a container. So what's this, the function of a scapegoat in the narcissistic family system of these karmic families, because most of them are narcissistic family systems, because the whole false matrix was built upon narcissistic templates and exchanges in order to constantly keep abusers and bullies at the top of the food chain, and the abused silenced and locked into shame and locked into poverty and locked into lack, so that they could have good workhorses in the lower tiers. So this is something that begins in family, in the structure, but it's designed in order to build the world the way they wanted it with their pyramid structure, so they could continue having their bullies and their abusers at the top of the pyramid and the abused at the bottom. So it begins with the family. There's a pyramid structure in the family where there's an abuser, there's a bully, sometimes it's both parents, and then the children fall into line and they learn how to act in accordance with what it is they need to survive in that dynamic. And because a lot of the time they don't realize that's not normal, and they're being prepared anyway to go out into the world where the same dynamics are enforced, it becomes just normal behavior. And the only one who actually really struggles in very real ways, everyone suffers and struggles because of that, but the one who struggles the most viscerally is the scapegoat, because the scapegoat becomes the container for all the avoidance of the shadows within the family structure, within beings' personal relationships with them, as well as in the collective. So I was a scapegoat in my family. I've been a scapegoat in schooling systems. I've been a scapegoat in the workplace. I've always been the person who's been targeted to where other beings, instead of taking responsibility for their own shadows, they want to put it on me. Okay, and until you wake up and you begin to see that this is so prevalent in the false matrix system, that there are scapegoats, golden children, it's set up in families, it's set up in the schooling system. It's why some kids get all of the awards, whereas other kids always get overlooked. You know, that golden child scapegoat dynamic is set up in every social system within the false matrix. It's what kept it alive. It's energy harvesting 101. So what happens with the scapegoat is the scapegoat oftentimes is the one with the most solar energy, solar plexus. You cannot walk in truth and authenticity with a depleted solar plexus. Even if you carry the frequency of truth and your solar plexus energy has been depleted, you cannot speak it. You cannot stand in it. You become repressed. You know it's the truth, but you can't walk it, live it, speak it, display it, express it with conviction. And so it kills you, because it's like you know it, but you can't, it's like you're living in a completely different reality, because your energy has been so sorely depleted. Okay, this was the design of the karmic family, to hone in on the being with the most solar energy and just eat off of that, because they don't know how to create it for themselves. Okay, and they don't know how to create it for themselves because the false matrix was set up for them to forget, for them to constantly engage in these acts of soul murder where they have to diminish another person to feel like they're higher or better than. How many times do you see that in adult-child dynamics, where an adult will not simply try to bring a child into alignment, but will try to shame that child and make that child take a lower stand than them so they can appear to be superior. That is energy harvesting. And when you do it to a child, because children are more innocent, more trusting, more open, the supply they get from children tends to actually be greater, which is why I've often said, and I'll say it again, the false matrix was run off of wounded child energy. At every level, child sacrifice is what kept this system alive. Child sacrifice, quite literally, through rituals, but also symbolically through those everyday exchanges that were set up on every level of systems to constantly put children through shaming, soul murder rituals by so-called authority figures that were eating their solar energy. Okay, and why is this important? Well, when you take someone else's solar energy, for one thing, you can't constantly be replenished in it. You can only be replenished in your own solar energy. Okay, so the more these beings are out there taking other beings' energy, the more they have to do it, like a drug. They know this about the false matrix. They want beings running wild and acting like this because then it continues to create more energy harvesting opportunities, which therefore keeps us out of balance, out of divine alignment, feeding the grids shit, and therefore keeping the collective consciousness at a lower frequency. Okay, so I've just gone off on a whole tangent I didn't really plan on going into, but let's go with it. Let's go with it. So everything was designed to, from the beginning, from the time you enter as a child, for authority figures who were also abused as children to also then do the same to you. And what is their excuse for that? Because most of them didn't like that treatment they received as children either. And instead of amending themselves and seeing the error of that way and how they are repeating it with their own children or other children, they see it as a rite of passage. It becomes a rite of passage. I went through this as a child, so now you have to go through it. It didn't destroy me. Of course it did, because if it didn't destroy you, you wouldn't be acting like a jackass to an innocent being. So the tab of your destruction is right there in that comment and in your behavior, right? So they will pass it on and they will say it will be a rite of passage to now begin to abuse other children and to take on the role of bully because they've been bullied themselves. And that doesn't only happen in families and parenting, it happens also in the work world, in the schooling world. We see it all the time. You see it even with these with fraternities, sororities, all of this hazing action. You see it in the workplace. How beings will scramble to get to the top, and they'll take shit, they'll be bullied only to get to a place of seniority and do the same shit that they hated to other beings because, well, it's just the way you have to climb, right? It's just the way you have to rise. We all have to go through it. It builds character. That's their big thing, right? It builds character. No, it doesn't. It builds a monster. It robs you of your humanity. It steals other beings' ability to be whole. It steals your ability to be whole. And that's the truth. So the false matrix had everybody fucking living in these energy harvesting dynamics. And even the ones who were the bullies, who were taking everything, they were still suffering and struggling. They didn't realize that the more that they took from us, the more they took from the scapegoats of the world, of the earth, the more they took from us, the less that they are able to actually tune into their own ability to connect with their own solar energies and to replenish themselves. And that's why so many of them now are struggling, because they literally can't find their way back to self. They've taken so much energy from other beings, they don't know how to find the way back to self. And that in and of itself is also that's their karma and their judgment. There will come a time where they will be able to find their way home for self if they choose to do the work and take accountability for the ways that they have produced and contributed to abuse and trauma cycles that have stymied and harmed other beings. But until they choose to do that, they stay blind and they stay accruing a lot of the karmic return that is becoming very, very strong right now because of where we are in ascension. Now I want to share something else with you, okay? Because we are electromagnetic beings, which means we are always calling in what it is that we are and what it is that our souls desire for their own furtherance. I'm going to say that again. As electromagnetic beings, we are always calling in what we hold in our energy fields and what it is that our souls need for their own furtherance. Now, sometimes what our souls need is for us to go through something so profoundly painful that we wake up and we see that we've been living in lower states and we've got to get out. So sometimes our souls will draw in more of that. Not sometimes, our souls will draw in more of that for the purpose of waking us up. Okay? But think about this from the standpoint of the law of attraction, because this is what it is, right? And think about parents and how they draw certain souls towards them and why that might be. And why it might be in these past few decades, I wouldn't say the past two, but the decades before, there has been such a heavy drawing of beings into bloodlines with parents that literally are their enemies in the spirit. There are so many people whose parents are literally some of their greatest karmic enemies. There are so many people who some of their siblings are their greatest karmic enemies. Okay, you're only just seeing it now, but you've been playing out these cycles with these beings lifetime after lifetime after lifetime. And for many of you, you've got a whole bunch of these people working together in a group within a family setting, and you're just waking up to that, or you've just been waking up to that, right? Why would that be? Why would your soul be magnetized to them, and why would they magnetize you? Okay, I'm going to tell you a few reasons why. One is that as parents, we call in, just like we do with everything else, the children we need in accordance with what it is we need for our souls, what our souls need. We call in our children for soul lessons. Our children are our teachers. And this is what the false matrix didn't want parents knowing, because if you know that, then you rise, you evolve, you ascend, you break generational curses, you break the fuck out of this prison planet, or the prison frequencies they had you stuck in. You break past them. So of course they don't want you knowing that, but that's it. You call in your children in accordance. I know for a fact, if I didn't have my children, I would still be living stuck in such severe denial and of self, of my situation. I might not even be alive, in all honesty, because being in my family, I tried to take myself out and alive myself a few times. And when I tell you it was around portals and I didn't even know the energy harvesting that was happening at this, I could tell you stories, and I will one day, But if it hadn't been for them, I would have given up. My daughter came in, and she's a master. She came in and she put me right, and I needed those lessons. My son came in and showed me also how to be tender with myself. I needed those lessons. And then together they combined their forces, especially once I began to rise and become an honorable parent to them, once I learned how to stop repeating the same parenting mistakes that had got me fucked. When I humbled myself enough to recognize that I was repeating that shit, and I started to show up for them in more honorable ways, then they band together also and began to show me the truth of the family that I'd incarnated into. It was through them. But the true lessons that I needed to get free did not come through until I learned how to humble myself and honor their mastery in my life. So parents call in children in accordance with what lesson they need to liberate themselves in the false matrix. Okay, that's what we do a lot of the time. But parents will also, and this has been happening a lot in this ascension, will also call in the very ones who across lifetimes they've been energy harvesting and stealing soul pieces from. Because that the energy they've been taken, it doesn't just, wither away and die. There's still a remembrance and a record. Even if they can't still access the energy, the fact that they've taken it, it's become kind of a veneer of an energy signature that they've created off of other beings' energy that's now blanketing their own, that's stopping them from getting to their own frequency. So they're calling in those energies also that have become a part of their fake energy signature. And they're doing it for a few reasons. For one thing, they're doing it because they know that's a good energy source. Has been in the past. Every time I fragmented, soul murdered, energy harvested this being in the past, they've been a good supply for me. Let me call them in. That's one reason. But one of the main reasons it's been happening, this ascension, is because it's time to give everything back that's been taken across timelines. I've told you guys, some of you, the stories you're going through with your karmic family, the reason why they're so intense, especially right now, you keep on wondering, well, why am I not out yet? You're not out yet because the level at which they've siphoned you, okay? It requires something fully to be walked out, lived out for the full return of what it is that was taken. So those of you with the situations that have been drawn out, a lot of the time that's just a reflection of how much has been taken from you across timelines and incarnations, and how much needs to return to you. But it can't return to you until you rise up into the higher frequency you need that attunes with the truth of who you are, and you hold that enough to take it back without those other energies continually pulling it back towards them because they have that fake energetic signature veneer that is so full of your energy too. This is where the battle is literally an energy war. This is why at the same time they're doing you a favor, because you've been going the back and forth, the back and forth. The back and forth is about the fact that some of these beings have become more comfortable in your energy than you are because of all the siphoning. So it takes time for you to rise. It takes time for you to alchemize all the ways they purposely wounded you, murdered your soul, not only in this lifetime, but across timelines in order to constantly engage in that energy siphoning. It takes time. It takes time for you to equalize and to harmonize and to bring justice on all planes, spiritually, mentally, emotionally, and physically. You can't just walk away from these things. Trust me, I tried. You can't just walk away from them in the physical. You must close out the contracts in the spiritual, in the mental planes, in the emotional planes. And when you do that in those planes, naturally that shit shuts down in the physical. And I'm telling you, I'm a walking, living testimony that that is happening right. I'm watching it with my own eyes. Okay, so a lot of you have been called back into, and this is what I'm telling you, some of these beings are some of your greatest harvesters, okay? And they've been taking your energy across lifetimes, and it's time now for a karmic return, especially 2024. Don't forget, it's the year of the 8. 8 is the infinity symbol. That's all about the return. 8-8 portal, return, solar return, the return of your energy coming back to you. Okay, this year it's an 8-8-8 portal. That tells you why right now these games are what they are. Like I was talking about on Sunday when I did the video about how subtle the gaslighting tactics are right now to get your supply. It's because of where we are in ascension and how important this new moon in Leo and the upcoming 888 portal is this year, in the return of everything that was taken. Because understand and overstand what has been energy harvested from you. It hasn't only supported individual beings, it's supported all of the contracts that people have made across time that have made all of these systems possible. The banks, the governments, the museums, the educational system, the churches, they're all tuned into different parts of your chakra system, by the way. Did you know that? That government, family is connected to the root. Government is connected to the root. Church, entertainment is connected to your sacral chakra. And your family is connected to your solar plexus. All of them are connected to different parts of your chakra. You've been corded in those areas through the contracts that you sign etherically, but also the ones you sign on to as a citizen on this earth. The minute you enter onto these earth planes and they do that whole bullshit with getting you a birth certificate and all that other stuff, it's literally your parents signing you away, opening you up to the energy harvesting, and then they become good citizens of the false matrix by parenting you in adherence and accordance with what the false matrix says is the right way to parent. And the right way to parent in the false matrix is always that which is going to bolster your ability to be energy harvested. True story. So anyway, I think it's 46 minutes in. Let me just get into the downloads I have here, because there's some messages I want you to get tonight. Okay, so the karmic family is a pimping system that the false matrix, to keep the false matrix running. It's a pimping system for the false matrix. It's where they literally will pimp out their children to be energy harvested. And here's another thing, okay? When they began to show me this a while ago, I was just like, wow, these fuckers really got us on every level. Think about some of the rites of passage that we go through as people on the earth. And think about things like when you become an adult and you decide that it's time to settle down with another person, and then you might, find yourself pregnant, and the things that begin to unfold practically in your life, how that will be the time where oftentimes people will take out their biggest first loans and mortgages in order to secure their families. And think about those institutions, those building societies, banks, property management, all of them are in bed together, okay? They're all connected to different entities, and you're signing contracts. You're pregnant, your wife is pregnant, you're signing these contracts that tells you in the small print, the terms and conditions, that you're signing something away to an entity on credit. And that can connect that child that's in utero to the contract that is bringing security to the family. There's no mistake in how they set these things up. There's no mistake in how they set these things up. So that child, for example, and this is just a random way it might play out, this won't be for everyone, that child might never in the physical realm be able to secure themselves a home, a marriage, because their energy has become open to finance that for you through these entities and these other institutions. And this child doesn't know why can't I get married? Why can't I become financially stable enough to get a home? Oh, because all of the resources that enable and assure your ability to do that naturally on the earth plane, your birthright, outside of these fucking contracts and institutions, all of those specific avenues and resources have been blocked off to you because they've been opened up by parents to other institutions. I hope I'm making sense tonight. because the false matrix was a prison. It was imprisoned, and it had to, because it tried to close itself off from the natural universal flow, it had to constantly find these loopholes and make these contracts to take our energy and to access us. And it's easier to access, let's be real, when a baby is in utero, they are still in that liminal space between the material and in spirit. So there are actually really wonderful conduits for bringing in resources and solar energy from outside the planet in order to keep this craziness alive. And you make parents desperate enough, and they don't know it, that this is what's happening. They just think this is the responsible thing to do, right? There you go. Okay, so let's get into some of the downloads. There's a lot of reopening of 2020 and 2022 timelines right now. And the reason for that is, for many of you, for many of us, in 2020 and 2022, there were major moments of harvesting, specifically by these ancestral entities and family lines, as our karmic contracts with them closed out in 2022, and as the threat of ascension grew in 2020, a lot of us were taken into more of these rituals to try to energy harvest, and those very rituals are what woke us the fuck up, right? So there's a reopening of that, and there's a reopening of that, a revisiting of that energy, because it's time to shut it down on your end. And when you shut it down on your end, you get back what was taken from you. Okay, now I've said it before, I'm going to say it again. The way a cycle closes out is the same way it opened. So right now, if you're repeating a lot of situations, experiences, emotions, similarities to those old timelines, it's not for you to worry. It's for you to raise your frequency and to realize, ha ha ha, bitches, you're coming back for another feed, but the shop is closed because I know what you're doing. And to rise up in that attitude and to give that back to them instead of falling into fear. When you fall into fear, that's when you can be harvested. When you rise into pride, okay, pride is a gateway. When you're in a lower resonance, trapped in shame, pride is the gateway back to the heart. It just means you're able to love yourself enough to respect yourself. There's no bad energy. So if you are down here stuck in shame, going through, getting up to pride is a wonderful thing because it gives you the courage to break all the way up. Now, if you're all the way up here, you don't want to come down into pride. That's not good. But if you're down here, coming up into pride is what breaks you free. This is why you must understand and overstand how emotional energy works for the purpose of helping you ascend. There isn't a bad and a good emotional energy. It's how you fucking use it for your liberation. Okay, so a lot of the reopening of 2020, 2022 themes, family entrapment themes, stories repeating, so you find the exit on all planes. So some of you have ended the spiritual stories. Some of you have walked away physically. Okay, but you still got to close out these things mentally and emotionally. That's why they keep coming back. Some of you, have done the work. If you're like me, I've closed it out spiritually, mentally, emotionally. It's a go. So physically now, I'm just waiting for everything to play out because everything else has been dealt with on all other planes. Okay, so whatever plane you need liberation from right now, these themes, these cycles are repeating, they're coming back, not to drag you back in and to make you think you've lost, but for you to find your exit out by raising your frequency, asserting your authority over self, and refusing to allow yourself to be dragged into those lower energies where you can become trapped again. If you feel you're being pushed into a corner right now, this is why, and it's actually a really good place to be. It shows that that you're a threat. If you're being pushed into a corner right now, this is why, and it's a good place to be because it shows that you're a threat because ending is close. Now, if you get in that corner and you get afraid and you think this means that everything's falling apart and yada, then that's what will happen. But if you get into that corner and you realize, oh, wait a minute, y'all are like, there are 5 lions here and little old me, you got to get me in a corner because you're afraid. Oh, that must mean that I have the strength of about 50 lions. Let me summon that up and tell you who the fuck I am and roar. So y'all can, your asses can find your rightful places away from my energy. That's what needs to be activated right now. It needs to be activated so you can get your shit back, but it needs to be activated again so you can rise back into your heart space and into your leonine energy, your solar plexus and heart energy. You're being shown how to pivot and make your way through the same traps that once intimidated or ensnared you. You are being shown how to pivot and make your way through the same traps that once intimidated or ensnared you. You must keep going. So what does this mean? When you face the same ensnarement or the same trap, you will keep on facing it until you overcome it and you don't succumb to the fear. If it's come back, it's time for you to close out the story, not continue to contribute to the growth of it with your fear. Okay? It's a good thing. It's a good thing. You must learn to pivot. You must learn to use humor and play to do that. And the only way you can use humor and play is if you know what's actually going on. Like I said just now, oh, you must be really hungry. You coming back again for this good golden energy? You must be really hungry because it's the end of the age. But guess what? I ain't got no more golden nuggets for you. As you lick your fingers, I got some for me, but I don't got none for you. You've got to play with these energies and let them know you're not afraid of them because you're in authority over yourself. And when you're in authority over yourself, you have the full protections of universal law on your side, and those energies are out of alignment. And all it takes for you to call karmic judgment, justice on them, is to stand in your power, and it's done. And they don't want that. They don't want karmic justice, which is why they want to keep you eating their karma. They don't want karmic justice. So a person who knows that who knows who they are brings that in faster for them, which is why they always want to knock you off your square. Which means that you're a threat to them, not the other way around. Remember, you live in an inversion. Don't fall into self-pity or victimhood consciousness. Don't do it. Don't do it. That's where they want you. They want you feeling bad, feeling sorry, feeling defeated, despairing. Don't do it. The more you are being fought against, the closer you are to an exit point. The more you're being fought against and cornered, it actually shows you that you're real close to an exit point. The fight, the annoyance, the trap, all of that, it serves as a distraction and a deterrent to push you back in, to push you back into the corner more permanently. All of these are distraction tactics, right? That's why you don't fall into self-pity. They're distraction tactics to get you to lower your own frequency into worry and despair and anxiety and fear. Don't do it. You've already won. And that's what they don't want you to know. They want you afraid of them. They should be afraid of you. And you need to tell them that. I ain't afraid of you. You ought to be afraid of me. You ought to be afraid of me. I'm not afraid of you. Okay? So, already an hour in. I got to get my ass to bed. I hope that this reading was helpful. Reading downloads. I didn't even pick any cards. I hope these downloads were helpful and insightful. I hope they gave clarity, especially for those of you who find yourselves slipping right now because of the intensity of the energy, the gaslighting, the distortions, the bullying, the covertness of it all, but the familiarity within yourself that shows you it's real. I hope that it helps you to rise back into clarity, because there's a lot of crown chakra fuckery at play right now. But it's all good. It's all good, because you cannot, their tactics cannot evade the power of the sun. And this is also why during Leo season, the energies become a lot more covert and even lay off you a little bit. They lay off you. Also, so you get them codes, so that when you're all full and fat, they can come and feed on you again through Virgo season, and really through Scorpio season. It's a whole other message on the energy harvesting calendar of the matrix that revolves around this energy, this solar return period. Right? So they want you calm, relaxed, fat, happy, open to receive. Right? So they lay off, but they also lay off because they don't want you to see under the sun what's happening. It's easy to hide in the darkness when it's nighttime, right? Easy to hide in alleyways and do shit. But when that sun hits in the morning, and when it rises up at like 10 a.m. when it's real high, you can't hide in an alleyway and do anything, because there's nothing hidden from the sun. Everything is seen. And this is why they like to hide out also in this time. So just be aware, just because that's happening, it doesn't mean that, and when I say hide out, they don't stop, it just becomes more like covert. Okay? So that's what I have for you. I hope that this was helpful. I look forward to seeing some of you guys tomorrow for the midweek group check-in session, and some of you on Thursday, August 1st for the small group Tarotstrology, the story of your sun and the moon. If you'd like to join me over on Substack, I invite you to do so. I don't really think I ever really tell you guys fully what is on Substack. I've been trying to do that more recently. I write every single day on Substack about the energies, how I'm experiencing them, downloads. Sometimes it's more collectively based, a message for you. Sometimes it's more my personal experiences and insights, because I am an energy reader and healer, but my first love is writing, so I am a writer. So I dedicate a lot of time to putting those posts out every single day on Substack. If you become a monthly or an annual patron, you get full access to that, as well as the archives, and all the decrees are there too in the archives. And you get to meet with me every month in a group Q&A session. So every month for the price of membership, which right now is less than $10 a month, by the way, you get all of that, and you get to meet up for a monthly group Q&A session. So I try at every turn to create opportunities for people to get the information, okay, at all price points. So please avail yourself of these possibilities, and also please, support me in my work on the planet. I appreciate all of you who already do, but that's what you're ultimately doing when you choose to sign up for something like that. You are also, propelling my own power to get my messages out, to look after myself, to break fully out of my of the physical aspects of the abusive structures that I am helping you guys to get out of too. So I say that so that we're all aware that right now we are responsible for helping one another to rise in all ways. And there's a call right now to become just so much more aware of where we are directing our energy, what we are building, what we are giving to. This has been a theme since the beginning of the year, and it's not only your money, it's your energy, your consciousness, your mental energy. What is it that you are choosing to use your solar codes to build? And what you're choosing to build, is it in alignment with who you actually are? So just something for us all to think about. This is something my guides have been doing a work within my own soul on recently too, which is the only reason why I can show up and share it with you too. So if you would like to book me for a soul recovery session, all of those summer rates are applied right now on my website in the pricing, and it stays that way. All of my deals, my Substack deals, 33% off membership. you know, my summer rates for my soul recovery one-to-ones, they're all in effect until September 22nd. So make good use of that. I also do divine alignment and Tarotstrology readings. All that information is on my website. If you want to book with me, I need you to email me directly in order to do that, because I do bookings personally one-to-one via email. Okay, so I think that's it. I'm sending you guys so much love as we close out July and get ready to enter into August. I really do feel like August is going to be interesting. And I'm just going to leave it there. It's going to be interesting. So I'll see you again soon. Take care.